under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you all. We call the meeting of DDA Live to order with the red flannel Rosie on her way. And rings in your chair. We will go through attendance. Ms. Arp is excused. Ms. Atchison.
Here.
Mr. Byer.
Here.
Ms. Ensley.
Here.
Ms. Gates is on her way. Mr. Heiler.
Here.
Ms. Howland. Ms. Powell also on her way. And Mr. Ringler is present. Blah, blah, blah. Those citizens wishing to speak on agenda or non-agenda items will be allowed a maximum of 4 minutes each to address their concerns. This will be the only time during the meeting citizens are allowed to address the DDA. Please state your name and address for the record if you would like. How many times can we say address in one sentence? Friends? Hearing none, seeing none, we will move on to any conflicts of interest or ex parte communication. The record reflect that Ms. Gates is now present.
That's fair.
On to our agenda, which is contained in your packet. If there are any additions or amendments to the agenda, otherwise I would entertain a motion to approve.
Support.
Favor, please indicate by saying aye. Any opposed, same sign. Agenda is approved, and we move on to our biannual scintillating informational presentation. Or is that our DDA manager?
This update, I guess. I have lined up a video through the Michigan Planning Enabling Act.
All of us without popcorn.
It's a 30-minute video. We can probably stop it after 20-25 minutes. You'll kind of get the gist of it, but I thought it was very informational. A lot.
Set a record.
There's a lot of new DDA board members. I thought this would be very informational for the kind of the background that we work on and where the DDA gets their money from to do all the wonderful things that we do with our DDA money. Get it started.
Well, hello, I'm Carmen Aventini. This is going to be a session on tax increment financing. It's all about it. I am the president of CID Planning, and I've spent quite a bit of time throughout my career doing DDA plans and financing for redevelopment projects. And so tax increment financing is kind of one of my, I call it my hobby, because I'm so interested in it and always looking for different ways to utilize it to help communities out. So that's what we're going to be talking about today. So the purpose of this module, it is intended towards, to be targeted towards appointed and elected officials, basically letting you better understand what tax increment financing is about and how it works within the authorities, and also give you some ideas on how you can use it more effectively as a tool in your community. But first, we're going to talk about downtown development authorities and plans. That's one of the more common ways that we see tax increment financing used is through downtown development authorities. There are other tax increment financing authorities too, and I'll give you kind of a brief overview of what they do. I can also I'm going to talk to you about how tax increment financing works. What are ways that you can utilize it in your community in an effective fashion? And speaking of that also, how to use tax increment financing very specifically to fund those projects that you're interested in. So TIF, that's the term you're probably going to hear quite a bit of. It's called tax increment financing or TIF, which is the common name. So there's different types of tax increment financing authorities. And back in 2018, the state decided to put all of the different types of tax increment financing authorities into one act. and it's called PA 57 of 2018. And if you go in there, and Google it online, you can find out where, whether it's DDAs or LDFAs or all the other different types of tax increment jurisdictions. Find them in there, they're all organized. Better than it used to be. Where you could- So that act with DDAs allows you to capture local property taxes to pay for expenses within a district. I'll talk more about how you set the district up and how you should make it more effective when you set those boundaries. And the DDA, once again, is one of the more common ways of financing. Another one, however, which I'm sure a lot of people hear about, but you may not truly understand, is brownfield concept. And brownfield authorities capture state and local property taxes to pay for eligible activity costs related to brownfield sites and projects. And typically, when we hear brownfield, we think of contamination. And that's kind of a good way of thinking of brownfields. And the reason is that many of them do have contamination. Now, you might also find that some have elements that, when you say, wow, that's really contaminated, but yes, it meets the legal definition of contamination, so it is eligible for brownfield. Another one that's really common, and we'll probably continue to see more of these in the future, are corridor improvement authorities, or CIAs. And they were created under Public Act 280 of 2005. And like a DDA, it gives communities the ability to capture local property taxes, fund improvements in commercial corridors that are outside of the main commercial or downtown areas. So I think what happened is we recognized that not all communities, especially townships, for example, may not have a traditional downtown area, but also have the need to provide some of the same improvements and incentives that DDAs are able to provide. So what they did is they established different criteria to qualify under a corridor improvement authority. You're still required to allow for a mixture of uses. Key components they put in. So in order to qualify to become a corridor improvement authority, you have to be able to allow a range of different types of uses to be mixed together, including housing. Then there are other local, there's a Local Development Financing Act, which is the LDFA. LDFAs were typically found in industrial districts. And you capture taxes to do things like roads and infrastructure like sewer and water, and to make areas that maybe weren't suitable for industrial development to now be suitable. That's kind of the other big one. Tax increment financing can be used for historic districts and other, they can set up for other type categories too. But the ones that I've talked to about already are the most popular and the ones you're probably gonna hear most of. I'm not sure if you can still create a Local Development Financing Act, an LDFA authority. I think that the state legislature said that they can have them in place so you can continue to work with them. So we're going to talk a little bit about creating and adopting a DDA plan. So within the DDA plan, there's two components by the legislature that were set up. Even though we call them DDA plan, within that plan, there's the development plan and the tax increment financing plan. Okay? They both go together. You really, communities don't typically do them separately. So you usually do them together. Some communities will even call it the tax increment financing plan, when in reality the DDA plan also includes the plan. So the purpose of the development plan is we have a number of things that we have to accomplish under the state act. The first is we have to create boundaries. So within the boundary, that's where we're going to capture tax increment. And that's where we're also going to make improvements within that district. So one of the first things we need to do is establish the need for the tax. You have to show that you've got deterioration occurring, or some other lack of investment, the need for improvement. Now, there are some folks that think that, well, our area, doesn't look that bad, or it's in pretty good shape, so we don't know if we can do a DDA. When in fact, there may be elements within your community that give you the ability to set up a DDA. It could be things as simple as streetscape improvements. It could be things that are underground, like infrastructure. There's one community I work in where they recently did a $5 million downtown streetscape project, which is very good. But so much of that money went underground because they replaced all the utility lines, because they come back to the 1800s. So there was a lot of it you might not see. So you might have the need for the improvements, but it might not be visible. One of the things you want to do in the development plan too is engage the public and the stakeholders. You want to make sure that when it goes to council for adoption, you don't have a room full of people objecting to it. You also want to make sure that you put time and effort into talking to the tax insurance, capturing taxing, buy in, become a partner with you. And all of this really requires that you develop a vision for the DDA district. What is it that why do you want to create a DDA? And what is it within that district that you're looking to accomplish? Here's a map from the city of Romulus. This is their DDA boundary. And as you can see, it isn't restricted to one small area. A DDA can extend over a large area. But what you typically want to do is have it match up with the area where you think you're going to be spending money to. You don't want to just capture from one area and give to the other within your city. You want to make sure that the whole area is going to benefit. Now, they may not benefit all at the same time. Okay, there's one community that I work in where the DDA district extends out east and west pretty far, and one of the areas has been a new development area where the other is downtown. And over the years, they've been able to use the money generated from the developing area to fund improvements in the downtown. Okay. Now that downtown is doing really well, there could be a point in time at which the money being generated in the district is being looked at outside of the downtown area to make other improvements to continue to sustain that previously new development area. The purpose of the development plan is to identify improvements within the district that will catalyze redevelopment. So what are the things that we can do and we can spend this money on that will encourage folks from developers or folks from the outside of the community to invest in it? And one of the ways that we do that is we develop what's called a project list, and it tells us how we're going to spend our money once we capture this tax increment financing revenue. So one of the things we want to make sure we do within that plan is we want to make sure that we're being all encompassing, that we're covering something that we might want to do. So here, one of the things you'll see in any DDA plan is you'll see tables that talk about how we're going to capture our taxes, our tax increment. And there's usually three tables. The first one talks about how the taxable value will increase over time, because that's where we get our money from an increase in taxable value. And two, that there's a discussion also about, what is being captured from homestead versus non-homestead needs, which means homestead is residential and non-homestead is non-residential. That the taxable value in 2017 was $23 million. But when the DDA was established, it was $6.3 million. So the difference between those two, the $16 million, 16,743 through 33, what we're capturing taxable increment from. If you look over the right side, Table 3 tells you this is where we're getting our millages from. So in the left column, you'll see operating, library, parks, transit authority, community college. These are all villages in the city of Romulus, that they're capturing through their DDA. What ends up happening is over on the right side, remember that 16 million that we talked about, that's the new taxable value from when we first established this district. If you take that, multiply it out times the villages, you can see how much revenue they're actually creating off that new tax. Over in 2017, they're actually bringing in $400,000, $400,719 approximately into their DDA, within this district. So here's that project list I was talking about. And what we've done within the project list is once again, we've created categories here in this particular list. They have from Romulus once again, they have organizational, they have economic restructuring, marketing and promotion and so forth. But what we want to make sure is all the different things that we're putting in that category, in those categories, the project list, all those different items are broad enough categories that as we move forward in the future, 5, 10 years, however long, that we're not going to come in and say, oh, we want to do this project, but you know what? It doesn't fit those categories. So we need to amend our plan to create that category to allow that project to fit within there. And that's the one thing we don't want to do, because one thing I'll stress for this presentation is in state of Michigan, it's very arduous and lengthy a process to get your DDA adopted. It's almost more difficult than adopting a zoning ordinance. So you want to make sure you don't have to change it all that frequently. The other thing you'll find too is we have to put costs in there, cost estimates. You can see in the column off towards the right, not the last column, but next to it, there's dollar figures in there. We look to estimate that's based on what we're going to be capturing over a 20 to 30-year period. How much of that capture might go into different programs? But it's an estimate. Nobody's going to come forward in the future and say, you captured 20, or you had 20 million on that line, but you only spent 10. Okay, it's intended to be an estimate, a guide. So don't worry about it if you're not exact. Don't worry about it if you're even way out in left field on it and it ended up being more money or less money than you anticipated. The other thing is you don't have to spend a lot of money getting these estimates done and getting them super accurate, because in 2 or 3 years you're going to change anyway. Okay? I do know communities have spent a lot of money doing that, and my recommendation to them is if you want to get more detailed information related to your plan, put it in a separate implementation plan or a workbook or whatever you want to call it. Because then when you want to update it, you just take it to your board and you update it. You don't have to go through the amendment process. So we want our plan to primarily meet statutory requirements and cover broad categories. And then the specifics we can keep outside the plan where it's going to be a lot easier to make changes. That's what we typically recommend to communities. So creating that TIF plan, this is its second part, and that's actually where the tables that I showed you will go. So within the TIF plan, we want to explain the purpose and meaning of tax increment financing. Tax increment financing, I have found, is one of the most misunderstood tools that communities have available when it comes to the general public. The general public does not understand tax increment financing. You can do your best to differentiate between that and general tax capture to pay for services, and there's just not a good understanding of the differences. So that's one of the things that I spend a lot of time doing, is explaining what the differences are. So one of the ways we do that, as I showed you previously, was we provide tables that explain that tax structure. How are we capturing taxable value, and how do we take the millages from the different taxing jurisdictions and apply them, and how much can we capture? Those tables show how the taxable value will increase over time. Typically, it's between 20 and 30 years. Now, what we'll do is we will build into the table somewhere, it used to be 3%, now we're using 2%. Because inflation hasn't been that high lately. In the future, we may go to a different higher number, if the anticipated inflation the folks are calling for does happen. But at this point in time, we usually recommend 2%. And you can build that right into the increasing value, the taxable value, over the term of the plan. Once again, they're estimates, we don't have to do that. But what it does is it shows you how tax increment will grow over time. Now, for those folks who think, well, we're capturing local property taxes, and do we really need that money? Usually the property taxes from the locality is not the biggest part of the capture. The biggest part comes from the county, from the other tax agencies. So when you have a DDA, you're actually getting a lot more money, more bang for your buck, so to speak. Which is why sometimes the other taxing jurisdictions express concern over the creation of DDA. Something we may have to deal with also. So here's how tax capture works. This is a graphic that shows you in simplified form what it does. So if we have a fixed tax base, or our taxable value is $10 million, let's say, when we're beginning our DDA district. That $10 million, if you go grow at 2% a year, over time, it's gonna, grow to 20 million, let's say. And what tax increment financing does is it doesn't take any of your existing tax base away. It doesn't impact negatively taxing jurisdictions. You're still gonna collect taxes off of the 10 million. What it does is it allows you to capture the increase, the incremental increase over time. And you can see that's the blue area. So by the time it goes up to $20 million, the taxing jurisdictions are still getting the tax off at 10, but the DDA has captured everything above that. Now, the theory behind it is two things. One is the improvements that you're making, there's three. The improvements that you're making are causing the value to increase at a greater rate. Just counting on at 2% a year. Another key thing to keep in mind is in many districts, like these improvements, they're not only creating additional value within the district, but quite often they're creating new value just outside the district. And that is 100% capturable by the taxing jurisdiction. Often folks don't think about that. But if you've got somebody that invested in a brand new project and it sits just outside the district, you're getting a lot of gain off of that in the community, other taxing jurisdictions, without having to put money into it. So there's a real benefit to that. And then the final thing, the third thing that tax captures, at the end of the term of the district, all of the tax revenue being created goes back to the taxing jurisdictions. Now you might say, well, they're gonna come back and ask for an extension, and many DDAs do. But if you don't need the kind of money completely that you've been capturing, if you've been capturing $1 million a year, but you really don't need to capture that much, you can work on an arrangement with the taxing jurisdiction to share that money. But you need to be in a position first where you had all the improvements made, and now you're just putting money to things like promotion and advertising and things like that. Now here is that table I was talking about. This breaks it out in the previous table, it showed you where the million were coming from. And they are along the top, you can see, Fort Romulus, like there's a library, there's Wayne County Operating and so forth. And in the left column, you can see how the taxable value has grown from 20 million up to 49 million over that period of time. And then if you look to the right and you move over in that direction, you can see how much money is being captured from each of the taxing jurisdictions. So Wayne County Operating went from 154,000 up to 350,000 per year during that period. So it's increasing over time, getting more and more money. You go to that right column, you can see where it gets all the way up to $1 million a year that's being captured. In the end, there's there's $25 million that's been captured from 2004 to 2033. And that's a pretty significant amount of money. But there are also laws in the state act that say, here's how you have to spend your money. It has to be according to that list of projects that we already talked about. But this gives you an idea within the plan of how that money's gonna grow and where it's coming. It's not just coming from local. So here's some basic tip facts. So, the TIF, what it does is it used to capture both the real property tax and personal property.
Gist of DDAs and TIFs and, I'm not sure what page this is in your packet, but it's probably towards the top there. I wanted to explain the work that we do, here to let you guys know how much the DDA is gonna capture annually. Bring this up by any chance or no? 9. So we actually have 3 mini DDA district zones all combined is our overall map. But make sure that almost $7 million base stays that base. We have to keep them separate. So the difference between the base value and that should be 2025 current value, 11 million, is the captured value, 4.8 million. Yes, thank you. Then, so 4.8 million, that's the important number for the DDA. That's what we can capture on. So all the millage rates listed on the left there, we do not capture any school operating tax, nothing from the school sinking fund or school debt or set tax. We do capture from the Kent County extra voted, the jail, the senior millage, veterans, zoo and museum, and Kent County operating. Don't capture anything from the Kent County ISD. We do capture from GRCC, the college, and then you have the city's general fund, the city's refuse pickup fund, and then the library fund. 24 mills out of 60, roughly that's levied in total. Times the captured value is the $118,000 2025 revenue for the DDA and the 25-26 fiscal year. That's a calculation we do every year in calculating the DDA's budget. For Austin, new, yeah. Denise, do you understand? Yeah, thank you. Appreciate it.
In our budget,
We don't have money that we set aside for, feasibly buying property or, helping blight. We don't have that other than the facade grant, right? Right.
Yep. The 118,000. So the original plan that was amended in 2016, here's your original DDA plan, several, quite a thick document. Has the original scope of vision back then, for the 20 years, 2036 is the end of this plan proposed. And I don't see on that list, acquisition of buildings, structures and properties was on the original list. If there was a building in the DDA district, DDA dollars could be used to buy it, improve it, whatever.
yeah, I'm
Just thinking, as these dollars go up, that might be something that we might wanna think about, because that was listed, when he talked about things you can do. And that might help some of the, if somebody can't afford to do something, then maybe, part of the community and us could put money toward a building to help fix it up. So you don't have like one building looking really bad and a lot more that look really nice. So
So that was the informational piece I had for everybody. I don't know if you want to throw questions to the audience or.
Any other questions from the board? Anybody out there have questions?
Yes, I did, maybe I didn't,
Quiz it shortly. Bernie.
you already can't get out of here in time. It's not gonna be a record day, I tell you that right now. So, I guess I can understand it, when he talked about early in the presentation about corridor improvements. Well, Cedar Springs, to me, is kind of, it's a, I don't say it's a problem, we gotta fix the problem, but there's a main street, and we have a main street, but because of geography, okay? Because of rivers, because of bridges, because of swamps, we don't have that, we don't have a bunch of downtown streets. You're not gonna have them. I don't see how we could ever do it here, because of the way the geography is laid out. So what does it mean when you're talking about corridor improvements? What, help me with that? When he talked about that, I know we touched about it a little bit, about that other, about housing, can be housing and other, but, and what's the criteria for it? I don't understand it,
Fully zoned.
right?
So
That's a,
17-mile would be a corridor, main corridor coming into the city, but it's not your traditional downtown.
right.
28th Street in Grand Rapids.
But right. So, okay, but those fall in, you capture money for those from there or for,
Plan.
we don't have.
We do not.
Okay, that's, okay. That's the answer to my question. I could have asked it that way.
We do have several brownfields in the
Right.
city sites. We used to have an LDFA, industrial zoned over on 16-mile. That wasn't going anywhere. We paid the money back to the taxing units that we collected. We had maybe 50,000 in that we had collected. So we gave it back to the taxing units way back when I started.
Okay, sorry. Next.
We did the reorganization a couple of years ago when Mike was here. That was DDA 3, as I recall, yes. 3 have listed on here.
So not necessarily, it could have been a piece of each one of them. Because we eliminated a lot of the personal property at that point.
We're going through that process, so.
So whatever was left, there's some. In the original DDA number 1, there's some parcels left, $870,000 worth of value. I don't know how many, that's 39 parcels. The original DDA number 2,
Sequential, it was, okay.
Darla, I'm not sure why the area between 17-mile and along 2nd and 3rd Streets is not included in our DDA boundaries. Like a big chunk there.
yep, I see that. I have no idea why. So this strip of parcels here in the middle that are not shaded are not part of the DDA.
As I recall, and I can't see obviously from here, heck, I can't see my screen. But I think when we had that discussion, was there not something that was there public there, a school, or there were public properties maybe that did not have taxable value?
So probably.
I remember having that discussion when we did it. I just don't remember what the rationale, maybe that might have been it because it was primarily residential too. What street is that? That's north and south.
3rd is here. So the west side of 3rd. East and west.
Is that crossing 17? So is that school property that's south?
That corner mall is not included in our DDA for some reason. I think it's something we need to, look a little more seriously at because that's a lot of property. Some reason isn't. It's just like takes a big bite out of our DDA for some reason.
Yeah, we may have to go back and look at those notes when we did the last, you were here then, weren't you? Were you finance director then?
Was, yeah.
I don't know if we have any notes from. Then I remember looking at that, we talked a lot about, 18 Mile 2 where the trailer park was, and I think some of that was actually eliminated, as I recall.
Is it listed? What's the address for the for the mall? Is it 17 or is it Main Street?
I don't know.
Could have included it in 17 Mile instead of Main Street. That could have been a difference for the mall. Cause it's got a driveway on both sides, so.
It looks like spot zoning or whatever they call it, kind of strange.
Main Street was the main DDA, and then we wanted to include the White Pine, the whole length of the White Pine Trail.
It's Main Street.
Is that Main Street? Then I
Yeah,
would
so
think
it's
that
as
we,
is now.
it should be. You have to, yeah, do some investigating on that and figure out why it's not.
And then this was
You guys
commercial property.
If you add it now, you take the basis today's value. So if we're gonna make improvements, it would help the DDA, or if they're gonna make improvements, it would help the DDA. We would be able to capture something from that. It stays as is. We put it in the DDA, it stays as is. It's not helping the DDA.
I think there's some sidewalks around there that could be improved if our DDA were to look at that.
Is there a ratio then when we're looking at the ad valorem, the refuse and the library? Obviously, there's a portion that's going DDA. Is there a formula for that? Or down the middle of this?
City operating is 15 point,
There's obviously a percentage there.
it's just this number right here coming off of the total city operating capture. Mills is 1.8 million, less the DDA brings 1.805 to the general fund.
Is pulling up all the county portion then?
Mm.
'Cause we're getting 118 and 1, that's pulling up all the counties, so we're not. I guess I'm trying to figure out why we have a total capture of 81 on the other.
Just, that's for us in the city. So the city council knows
Okay, gotcha.
between the ad valorem, the refuse pickup and the library millage, the DDA is capturing 81,000 of that. The rest is coming from other taxing units.
We had a color version of this somewhere, didn't we?
Yeah.
Zoning.
Anybody, any other questions on section? All right, that we will move on to our consent agenda, which includes approval of the minutes from our regular meeting on February 18th and February, I'm sorry, that strategic planning on February 18th and the regular meeting of the 24th, along with our balance and revenue expense reports, which are contained in your packet. Entertain a motion to approve.
I'll make a motion to approve the February 18th meeting and can I include them both? Okay, and the February 24th meeting.
Can you rephrase that? I need a motion to approve the consent agenda, please.
Motion to approve the consent agenda.
Mr. Byer continues to second. All in favor, please indicate by saying aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Unfinished business. Now we're on the draft of.
It's back. This is a draft. If you remember, our facilitator recommended that the DDA board adopt what we had drafted.
On page 19 of your packet, friends.
Another meeting to fine tune whatever you'd like to do, I'll step.
Whatever you like to do.
Well, I've already started working on a couple things because the next two items in your packet are from gathering information. It's a tool for, all of us to kind of look at when we're putting the budget together next year. What did we do this year? What's left on our list? Are these still our priorities? That's what I'm looking for.
Again, in my case, a summary from last meeting was helpful. Unfortunately, with all the scrambling around to do the strategic, I was not there for that, but I think everything in here is in line with what we've always considered priorities, so.
Guess I, like to see the putting aside some monies toward what I talked about, the blight and the, to make sure that's still in there. Doesn't have to be a lot, but at least if we put something aside, it would be helpful.
What was that for?
And for maybe purchasing parking lots or purchasing properties or something that we might be able to use.
Decayed buildings.
Yeah, decayed buildings.
Properties.
Yeah, if they can't afford to, yeah, can't afford to improve.
So I don't think that is part of 1, 2, 3, 4 that we've identified. We can add 5 in future budgets. Start to earmark money for.
That was talked about when we did the last strategic planning, and obviously it's just been one of those things that's a little lower on the list of priorities, and obviously that's going to be a significant investment. You get into the philosophical idea of, buying a property and turning it over versus other people having done it
Access
on
to
their
it.
own.
I would think that
Yeah.
would definitely, that would be something we'd have to work with, like the city with and maybe other, joint ventures. But that's just what I think, but that's up to you guys. I mean, I don't know what you're thinking on that area.
I mean, it might be a corollary of 1B where we're we're examining the properties that are there. Or what do we do about it? But and again, I think we're moving that way a little bit with the facade improvement. Hopefully,
Yeah,
everybody
yeah,
eventually is
that's what I was
taking
just gonna-
advantage of that.
That's what I was just gonna say too, that at least that was there. If we can continue to do something like that, that'd be great. That would definitely help. But I
See, a few
mean,
of them are done.
I just know there's some buildings that just sit there and they're not doing anything. So, and it's not looking good. They just look worse and worse and worse every year. And the person that owns it doesn't have any idea to work on it. So, but that's okay.
Anyone else have any thoughts?
I'm real enthused about having a DDA director. Having down at the amphitheater and kind of keeping an eye on that and cleaning it up before the concerts and just checking downtown.
Concierge that we hired last year, Teresa.
Coming back?
I'm meeting with her next week to discuss that.
I think for purposes of this discussion, we have our key objectives that are located in this packet. Is that something that we're prepared to adopt now, or do we want to digest this a little more fully and table it until the next meeting? What's the will of the board?
I'd prefer to table it. I don't know if you want to take a straw vote or.
What do you say, Bern?
There's a lot of information here to soak up.
What we've discussed the last couple meetings, but
Motion, what they want to do?
What's the most? What do I have to do here?
motion would be to adopt our key draft objectives.
If we adopt KJAC, we adopt the objectives,
Well enunciated.
not really.
We have a second?
Second.
Motion and seconded. Any further discussion? We will take a vote. All in favor, please indicate by saying aye. Any opposed, same sign.
Any,
Let's draft it then, or let's go down. We'll do a roll call.
Roll
Yep.
call.
Ms. Arp is absent. Ms. Atchison.
No.
Mr. Byer.
Yep.
No.
Gates.
Yes.
Mr. Hyler.
Yes.
Ms. Howland.
Yes.
Ms. Powell.
no,
Mr. Reed votes yes. Carries.
Motion carries.
I didn't keep score. Thank you all. Alrighty, city welcome packet.
This was something that we talked about at one of the meetings. This gets emailed to, anytime somebody comes to utility billing and says, I moved into this place, this gets emailed to them just for informational. Obviously, it's coming from the code enforcement department. There's a lot of common ordinances, information, phone numbers, and community-wide phone numbers as well. So
Page 38 of your packet.
just sharing that information.
Well, is that something we could work with, say the chamber, for example, as a more of a welcome packet as well to?
I just wanted to share what we already email out. Could it be improved? Absolutely. Seasonal too, we could add like the summer concert series and, whatever.
And I don't know if some of the local businesses want to put something in.
Well, that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm
Yeah.
wondering if maybe it's worth an outreach to the chamber that they could help facilitate getting, make it more of a welcome wagon thing with local businesses involved, local organizations, get some red flannel in there.
Sally, didn't you say you would be glad to gather information at the Cedar Chest and
Yeah.
Who would distribute it to the new people? Chamber or?
It would be through here because that's the point of contact, was the whole point of this, making City Hall the point of contact. But if the chamber can help collect and have those items here, then it's organized. When somebody comes in, they reach out to the city. That information is there. They get it. Yeah.
It gets emailed.
Nothing like tangible.
Certainly dropping something off.
Cookies. Okay.
Are you talking about sales? Dropping off to downtown businesses?
Well,
residential portion of
sounds like it needs to be worked on.
it. Right.
Say it might, that might be a committee to
Yeah,
coordinate
yeah.
with chamber then, yeah. And then being the point of contact with that. If you guys kind of lay it out, then we can all follow instructions. Okay, vacant building information.
So I looked, so there's 4 properties that the city invoices every month for vacant and abandoned properties. I pulled a lot of information from the assessing cards that we have on file here, worked with Ms. Ensley on getting all the pertinent information in one location for these 4 addresses in case somebody calls. I have this right in front of me, or if Laura's the point of contact for this, she has this information in front of her. Just thought it was. So this is what we've done in the last month, you know, baby steps, we're getting there.
So correct me if I'm wrong, there's four businesses here that have within our district that have problems, that could have problems.
They've been vacant for over 12 months, so therefore the city ordinance allows the city to invoice them.
Yes, but I mean, I'm looking at their structural, fragmentation. Further assessment is required for structural integrity and future use.
Need to be certified to do a structural integrity assessment of any of the buildings. That's not something,
But I mean, they really can't be rented out until they're looked at.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, the one, and then one,
would need to know that, so.
so should be considered for
Condemnation.
condemnation.
The 128.
Not asking to do anything with it.
Right, I'm just saying, you know, that a lot of them are in blight, disarray. So,
They should consider a facade improvement.
can't do that until they get the engineer look at it. Okay, thank you for those, that's helpful.
All right, budget requests, dog waste system,
Who is that?
So the budget that
46, page 46.
went to the budget workshop. It's on its way to city council, but you can still amend it today. What went to city council was $83,200. There's a couple additions that I need to add. When we secured 10,000 for a DDA director's position, I didn't include anything for Social Security, Medicare, benefits, retirement. That first little yellow pocket to the right there, $4,460. I would need to add that to the DDA direction.
I have something that I need to change too. When we took $2,000 from, New Year's Eve, 25, 26, I thought we were taking it from 24, 25. So that was my misunderstanding. So we need to fix that because we can't take $2,000 from 25, 26 and try to grow an event, right? What I thought we were proposing was taking it from 24, 25. So that was my fault. I misunderstood, so.
Increase New Year's Eve back up to 5,000.
5,000 and then put the money on fair, pull that from 24, 25 budget from New Year's Eve that we didn't use.
Then Rose, you had emailed me about would the DDA consider a contribution to the Fountain of Knowledge?
Yes. Probably, we have to vote on it, I'm sure, and have a discussion.
Would we like to add that to the new fiscal year budget? A contribution?
Is that the fountain by the library?
Yeah, I know they're looking for 10 grand, but I thought, you know, if we could just throw maybe couple of thousand if we have it in our budget. If it's available toward that.
That would be.
Yeah, especially since,
Already exceeding what this year's budget is, right? At this point, we're digging into reserves.
No, I was wrong on the original revenue. The revenue proposed for the 25-26 fiscal year is 118,000. We're currently at 83,200 plus 4,000, 2,000. And then somebody, I think Rose had mentioned the dog bags at Morley Park, which is not allowable because it's not in the DDA, but Heritage Park for sure in the heart of Cedar Springs. That's why I gave you the pictures and the information. One of these is 1,500. If you want one at Heritage Park and one at the heart of Cedar Springs, that would be $3,000. That's not part of the current budget. So if you'd like it to be, somebody needs to add that.
I motion to add that. Cause we need them. I was there just this weekend and it's a hot mess. So we need to do that.
No, it'd just be proposing to add that to the budget. We'll just approve the budget when we get done.
Laura said something once about why are we limited to doing the facade grants in February? Why don't we do it all year? You know, make it available all year. Is there a specific, yeah, is there a specific reason we've limited it to?
That's when the
think-
plans are due in or something, right?
I think the biggest part is work because it ends up being work for staff to redo these. So they do them once a year, consider them all and be done.
Okay,
You get it done if you own the property. I would think.
I think
We
people
do
are
it twice a year.
there too, right? After I did mine, people were asking me, how'd you get that? And I was like, well,
so there is a specific reason to keep it the way it's structured.
Cited in that facade grant application
Okay,
next month and
Excuse me, I guess I'm not understanding. That's when the applications have to be in, right? It's not when they have to be done. Oh, okay.
approved and March, is that it?
the application says the applications are due to the director in February, then I do my research, comes to the board in March or April. And then let them know so they can do it this summer.
Okay. I just didn't understand why it was limited.
Can't accept an application in September. I mean, if the money's hasn't been used,
Other date, we certainly can.
or something, I don't,
Assistant DDA director to help.
encourage people to want to make their buildings look better.
City manager's discretion. What you want.
Carla, is it a ton of work for you?
when 4 came to my desk on the same day, I'm like, "Woo!" Okay. But
There, it's probably not awful. Maybe open it up all year round, guys. I mean, let's encourage these business owners to do something with their building besides nothing. Yeah, it was kind of.
Sad, I don't know if we have enough money, but when Len put in his application,
This is beautiful. I can
Uh,
really see that.
yeah,
Put that on the agenda next month that we can vote to open it up and make the change. So we're on a budget discussion right now.
college, I didn't hear a number or anything.
dollars to donate to that.
Of the 118,000, yes.
I'm not sure that we can.
Proposing to add $2,000 to that.
I think we should.
Cause I'm keeping track of the changes.
think-
Carla, you got the. I'm like, what?
You're keeping track of what we're adding 2,000, okay,
Okay,
to
yeah.
that.
Right.
So we've got 3,000 now being added for doggy.
Mhm.
Those are 1,500. That's crazy.
Are there
We'd be adding-
refills that are,
We'd be adding 2,000 back to the New Year's event, so that would go up to 5. Adding 4,460 to the. $2,000 to the fountain. Contribution to the fountain.
Or the,
Fountain, who's paying for that? Who is that? Who's?
Is the main group.
Already in there, correct?
They're,
I'm sorry, just to finish that comment, were you proposing something different than the 1,500 that's already in there?
no, I was saying take 2,000 from the 2024-2025 budget that wasn't used and put that towards. Do that? No.
Well, current fiscal year goes into fund balance if it doesn't get used. If you want to budget more than 1,500, that number needs to be right here. Doesn't matter where it comes from.
Is already in there for next year, for Ren Fair.
Yes.
Okay.
That
Yeah.
didn't
No,
wanna
no,
add-
I want to make sure that New Year's Eve is not reduced to 3 grand. I want to make sure that stays at 5.
And
Okay.
then Red Fair,
And Ren Fair's already in there for 15. Yep.
but that's 25, 20, yeah, okay.
Our total budget would be 94,660 instead of 83,200.
The 2,000 towards the,
Yes.
fountain.
Fountain,
Okay.
yes. that's what I meant.
I don't track all that.
Yeah, me too.
Right, are we doing budget approval then today, or is that?
I need approved today so I can change the spreadsheet for the
Big.
meeting.
You want me just to run, you want me to go through the whole thing, or is everybody pretty clear where we are?
$11,460 as previously identified. For a total expense of 94,660.
That right there.
I'll support it.
A motion to approve the proposed budget.
Motion.
Thank you.
Yeah.
This is financial. We will do a roll call vote. Right. Ms. Atchison.
Yes.
Mr. Byer.
Yes.
Ms. Hanson. Ms. Gates. Mr. Hyler.
Yes.
Ms. Howland.
Yes.
Ms. Powell. Mr. Ringler votes yes. Budget is approved. This is the longest meeting, you guys. You guys are killing me. All right. Well, we had to watch Carmine there for a while, so. Okay, we're moving on to, our DDA facade grant application for 90 North Main, which is contained in,
I don't necessarily need a motion today unless it's very generic, because I don't feel, and I talked to Len on the phone last week. I told him I don't feel I have enough information to recommend this to the DDA. The project as a whole, yes. New doors, new paint, power washing, yes, but I don't have any colors. And that concerns me that if we say, yep, go ahead, we're gonna come here Monday morning and go, oh my God, we didn't approve that, right? So I didn't want to hold it up. Normally, I mean, the ones that we've already approved under me, I've had more detail where I could confidently say, yes, I like the sign, I like its commercial grade doors, these are the colors.
perspective, and it goes through planning as well, correct? Or no, it's not? Okay, so that would behoove us to,
Yeah.
make sure we're consistent.
Yeah, because the last time we just let somebody paint a building, you remember what that looked like? We both got to stare at it for years.
Pictures shown here, the color that he has decided on, or
The first, that's his current building. That's the first picture. This second picture is, he was driving somewhere and liked the look of this building, so he stopped and took a picture of it. I said, well, how does this relate to your building? I don't know, I just like this building. Well, that doesn't tell me anything. No. No. This is just a building he liked driving by somewhere and took a picture of it.
So the colors, select what those colors are and we're good.
DDA approves those colors.
But I have a thought, maybe motion pending the color choices approval by the city, right? So that way he can get going on it as soon as you see the colors, right? So yeah, so he's not, doing.
Darla's this color approval.
Knowing Len too, he's not exactly starting tomorrow, so,
But what if he's ready to? We want him to.
well, you've talked to him though.
I really like the colors. They blend in really nice with the brick work.
Okay. But I didn't want to not bring it to you and then we kind of missed the schedule of, the application.
I would throw, yes, would support, yeah.
Be in touch. You know, I'd bring it to the DDA and
Yeah, have her finish,
How's that?
yeah.
Move, 90 North Main facade grant pending color approval by the city.
I would hesitate. We're setting precedent here, and I would also, I would want you to be pretty confident in what you're looking at before we approve something, in my opinion. To,
then I'll let him know you got 30 days to get us colors.
and a final plan that you like, that, you know, whether it includes colors or anything else. I mean,
Well-
that's just my opinion. I mean, obviously I only get one vote out of 7, so.
The color. I trust her.
I think that, excuse me, but I think that what you're saying is you want more approval than just color. You want her to be good
I
with the
want her to be
project.
Satisfied with the project.
Yeah, so can,
We can operate with confidence. I mean, we're setting precedent in doing this. If we just start and we're opening ourselves up to something that's half-assed, that, well, the color is okay, and now suddenly we got something we didn't intend. That's all I'm saying.
yeah,
Rethinking is not in here that we want in here.
well, excuse me a second, with the planning commission, a lot of times things are approved, that you would approve it with, city manager, making decisions on the final project, that we have faith in what she's gonna decide would be a good fit for the project. Is that what we're talking here?
Not,
Oh, that's fine with me if that is already precedent.
To include not just the colors.
That's,
So how can we make the motion to, include all that?
I would suggest then with city manager and approving final color and conditions. Just add the conditions perhaps.
Yes. That sounds good to me.
Okay.
I'll make that motion.
So
Or are you just adding that to your motion? And then
I'll
you'll
just
say,
have her, yeah. Sure, yes, correct.
So pre-approval with city manager approving color and conditions.
Have that much money left in the facade fund, or are we going to?
Till the new fiscal year. So we have 15,000.
And I'm gonna have to
Right.
do it out.
I thought that
soon.
So the only thing that I could see in the, looking at this estimate, right? Windows and the cost of doors, you're gonna wanna make sure that they are commercial grade doors.
Yeah.
Because if he knows where I can get those doors for $750, he can call me, cause I need them.
Mhm.
Try those, I love them.
Okay, so we have a motion on the floor with for the facade grant approval with the condition of city manager final approval of color and conditions. All right. All in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Motion carries. All right, we have the 2025 calendar, which is contained in your packet. You can read through that at your leisure. City manager's report.
A lot happening. Things are getting exciting for spring and summer.
We will turn quickly to trustee comments with the always entertaining Mr. Byer. I look forward to this, Bernie.
I quit. No, but I am gonna retire. From the DDA,
You look like you've been on vacation.
taking care of business. And I've got a lot going on at home. Everything's fine. But I'm tired of working. So I'm gonna spend a little more time on 13 Mile instead of on Main Street. Which is it. And so, that being said, I want to thank everybody for my tenure has been quite a while, I think. I don't know. But anyway,
Missed.
I'm gonna send an email to, our city manager and tell her that, find somebody else. I got somebody in mind too. I brought him today if I can introduce him. Not that he'll be approved. But over there works with me. He has for some time. He's very seasoned. He's a businessman. His name is Jake. And, hopefully you'll, let him sit here and take care of business. He'll do all right. I wouldn't, I would not have him here if he didn't, wasn't gonna. That being said,
To Phil Jake, just so you know.
that's all I got to say. Thank you.
You, Bernie.
So.
Thanks, guys. I'm good.
Lisa, did you want to add anything before you?
Nope, I just got an appointment in Grand Rapids at 1:30. I got somebody coming in, so. I better get moving.
Thank you. Rose?
Just thank you, everybody. And Bernie, I don't know what we're gonna do without your levity.
That's right.
Andrew, hi. Oh, good.
Here, I think.
I can still check on you once in a while. Okay.
I think.
You
I
do,
know.
you always do.
Laura?
Bernie, I'm sad to see you go, my friend.
I'm not going far for you. I know who you are.
Awesome.
Thanks for everything.
You done, Bernie?
I will also thank Bernie. You will be missed, sir. I think our next big event is the July 12th is the bike race, correct?
Can I make a comment about that? Well, last year, I talked about the bike race, and we donated water to the bike race. And then I don't think they ever came and got any water last year. I don't know where they got water, if they needed or wanted, but Vanderhyde Ford will donate water to the bike race.
I will let Marty know. Thank you for donating. All right, with that then, we will adjourn. Way too tardy.